panelist is missing. She was here. So we're going to get started, and hopefully we'll find her. So this is a very interesting topic. As some of you may have seen Pari's opening keynote, how the world is moving fast, the productivity, the speed at which we are moving. And so we have a bunch of panelists here. First of all, I forgot that I'm talking to a bunch of CTOs. I'm the only one with a tie here. So I should have known my audience before I came here. But so we are going to talk about how companies are navigating the rapid increase in supercycle, we call it. How are we? I mean, it's both a positive and a negative. Positive is that you can leverage this. You saw what Pari said, that companies on a dime change their focus, and now they are reaping the benefits of that change. So how are these CTOs, how are they changing their companies and the products which they are building? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. A few years ago, I had a mentor who said that there are three things which are most important in business: speed, speed, and speed, right? And I completely, now it's even more relevant today. And when he said speed, it's speed of the product. So we were building a travel website, and the speed at which the customer experiences a product, the speed at which you develop, and the speed at which you iterate the product. And that's true even more today, right? Because the things are changing, the technology is changing, the user's perception and requirements are changing so rapidly. So we're going to talk about that. So I want to start with Gilles here, and then maybe we can go in that order. Gilles, you're in the automotive industry. How is the change? How are you navigating the change in your industry?
First of all, we have been in the automotive industry and within Continental, which is one of the major tier one in that industry, living in a growing market where electronic was taking more and more place into the car, changing the habits, improving the comfort, the safety of the car. And we are now at a point where the growth has been reached in a very sometimes unaligned way. Therefore, a lot of electronics into the car, difficulty to upgrade the car, processing power which is bigger than what you can get in an airplane. And of course, now we see new cycle coming with separation of software and hardware. Buzzword is software-defined vehicle. And in that new rules, we need as well to adapt. Speed is an element, as you mentioned, to allow software cycle to happen independently from hardware cycle. We need to adopt new methods in terms of developments to cope with the software cycle. We need to train and retrain our people to make them at a skill and a stage of the edge of the technology. And as well, we need to serve different regions which have different pace and speed. If you look China, if you look other countries, India, Japan, Korea, and Europe, in the US, therefore you have to accommodate the complexity. And the name of the game is agility, open mindset, and ability to observe what is long-term view, means how do we reorganize the structure to make sure that we will long-term be on the edge. On the other end is short-term approach with speedboats to test things because we have no crystal ball and we need to adapt and understand, test and practice.
Sure. So, Denis, the travel industry, since the internet days, has changing rapidly. How have you, now there's another change coming, you talk to a bot to make your reservations, and what are you doing to leverage this supercycle?
So, indeed, in our industry, as we are a leading IT provider to the travel and tourism industry, changes can come from the technology side or from the industry itself. So, as a rule, we don't make any bets. Okay, so if something is happening, we strive to get our feet wet as soon as we can, but we don't make a big bet because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you don't know. So the way we look at change is, okay, if something is happening, it can be technology, it can be, new processor architecture, Gen AI, all those things. We try to experiment as early as we can, but we don't make a big bet. Okay, we get our feet dirty, we look for use cases, we talk to our customers. Anything that's happening, we try out, but we don't make any bets. Okay, and then we see what happens. And I guess we'll talk about it, but so many technology fads that have come and gone that you have to be a bit careful where you put your money because you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure. And Vijay, you have the advantage of working in two very kind of different speed industries: healthcare, which used to move slowly, and now actually the space is in fintech, which was kind of the tech, which was always moving fast. So maybe you can give us a diverse perspective from those.
Yeah, no, thank you. First, it's great to be here, back at Confluence. I've been here before, and it seems much larger than what I remember. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, just to briefly, after 30 years in the tech industry, a lot of it in fintech, I'm now in the healthcare technology space, primarily solving a massive problem, right, in the US that some of you may understand as an affordability crisis, right? People are unable to pay for healthcare. In that market, costs are rising. There's a lot of burnout, when it comes to doctors, providers being able to provide care, and access to healthcare, particularly good quality primary healthcare, is a massive challenge driving up the cost of healthcare. Wrongful utilization, wrong venues, misdiagnosis, all kinds of problems. Fundamentally, my objective in entering this industry was, what can I do to apply the learnings, from the revolution that's happened in fintech. I remember the time when there were massive barriers to access to capital, money, there's been great progress, right, over the last couple of decades. How do we make that kind of impact to the affordability crisis? Technology, I think, plays a massive role in solving this problem. It's a key differentiator for the company. I work for a private equity-backed company called Apri Health, which works with large employers, that are essentially self-insured, pay for healthcare for their employees, health plans, insurance companies that underwrite, and also the provider ecosystem that delivers, right? If you think of network effects, there's a massive effect here that we can create in a couple of ways, right? Technology as a way to help break down barriers to data, right? Because data is foundational to be able to then derive insights, to really know the population that we're serving and the person, and then being able to bring engagement, right? Today, people are finding it hard to engage. Make it easy. Consumerization of healthcare so that I'm able to access, find information, get insights as a person, and be able to provide the same insights for the provider, right? So there's no longer the massive amount of effort to document, right? And be able to reduce workload and make them be able to focus more in delivering personalized care. And ultimately, make sure that the incentives in the business model of healthcare is corrected, right? So that whether it is the person seeking high quality healthcare at lower cost, providers wanting to deliver to health outcomes, keeping people healthy, and making sure that they're reducing unnecessary utilization and reducing costs and making more money. And for employers, large companies and health plans, to be able to then derive the same benefit, right? So how do you incentivize people? So this whole shift, which is actually relevant here in India as well, from fee-for-service care, paying for a service, to value-based care, being able to pay for outcomes, is a significant shift that's happening. And to me, technology, data, cloud platforms, AI, Gen AI, can actually drive a lot of administrative efficiency, be able to use data to personalize and provide self-service access, and be able to scale, right, the whole system. So I feel like there's a profound shift that's happening in this industry that I think will yield lasting benefits. There's certainly risks, risks to privacy, risks to securing data, risks to making things explainable, right? That we also need to be aware of, and there's ethical considerations that need to be also addressed. But doing that in a balanced way, I think will make a huge difference, and that's what I'm hoping to help and contribute in some way.
Sounds good. So Madhavi, nice. Thanks for joining us, and maybe you can, you want a minute? So maybe you can, so Madhavi is an economist on this panel, and so maybe you can tell us how this Supercycle what impact it has on the people and the economy, and maybe you can give us some insight on that.
I think we'll have to sort of answer these things, by keeping in context multiple factors. One is it actually a transformative technology, or is there too much hype around it? If it is indeed a transformative technology that you will get to see maybe over the coming years or so, what is the economic impact of it with regard to factors of production? And the kind of investment that companies are doing at this point in time, when is the actual payoff going to really show for these companies? And as I said, if this technology actually becomes transformative, you're also looking at a period where you will see a lot of cost pressure building out of the fact that you will see supply constraints with regard to, say, chips, as well as with regard to the power utilities constraint as well. But I think the bigger question here is that if at all it turns out to be a much faster technology in terms of productivity gains that one may see over the years versus the past technologies, you will see a situation where probably the net output that will come out of efficiencies that we are bringing in both labor capital and total factor productivity would also coincide with a much lower demand. Because in this cycle of technology, AI, contrary to past technologies, is actually going to replace more high-end, more qualitative jobs, which are actually much more higher paying, right? This time the AI exports tasks are actually more with regard to, say, lawyers, high-end engineers. You're also seeing, management consultant being also at threat. So these are the segments of the white-collar job which are actually much, much higher paying and have a much higher multiplier impact on, economic growth in the larger picture. So you will see a situation where because of productivity improvement, you will see a massive increase in output. But at the same time, owing to possible labor displacement of the higher strata in the labor pyramid, you'll actually see a much lower demand. So what happens when you have a higher supply and a lower demand in the world economy? Deflation, right? Or a massive fall in prices in general, or a more larger economic picture. We are yet to see whether that will happen or not, but as I said, if that happens, that will again be something to watch out for. And if that happens, I think, one, you will see much higher real rate of interest, and also, I think, a much higher demand of other factors of production like, land, or rather, maybe to some extent other natural resources, because these are the factors that the AI cannot displace or cannot produce. Labor and capital will become extremely cheap in the larger picture. But again, we are thinking way too far. Sitting today, if I understand, we are still a long way to go to actually think of AI as a transformative technology at this point in time. Too much too soon. It always happens in every tech frenzy. We saw that happening, in terms of the investment that company did with regard to metaverse or VR. They're no longer very relevant, right? When it comes to actual application in the current zone, there were massive investment that happened. If I look at the current estimates, companies had almost spent 10x in the last 10 years in AI investment. And if numbers are to go by, probably more than 1 trillion plus of investment is still likely in this particular sector. There's a lot of FOMO. Everybody is now pressurized to invest, still struggling to see the returns that could come out of it at this point in time. The investment to revenue ratios are not very supportive. Whether it will take 10 years, 20 years for them to actually materialize in terms of profits, we'll have to see. But if that happens in terms of productivity gains for the firm and eventually percolating in the economy, there could be two circumstances, as I said. One could be a very wide gap between output and demand. Or if at all there's actually economic prosperity that happens, you will see the same kind of delta that you saw, or multiplier effect that you saw in, say, agricultural revolution or industrial revolution, where you saw almost 100x increase in output overall, or growth overall. So massive prosperity, or maybe it will just fizz off like, the VRs of the world did.
Yeah.
I'll stop here and maybe...
Sure. So, Denis, you said, you don't make big bets, but at some time you have to decide, okay, yeah, this is where you need to... where is that inflection point?
I think the inflection point is when you have actually a solid business opportunity. If you have lined up a customer or a specific use case for the product that you're trying to infuse in your technology, as soon as this turns into something that looks like a real business, that's where we say, that's where we're going to go, that's where we're going to invest. And you have to also stop what you were doing before. If I just look over the past, let's say, 5 years, some of the technology waves that we've seen come and go, remember Google Glass, blockchain, metaverse, Gen AI. Okay, we tried all of that, okay? And right now, the only one that where we're still spending, like most, a ton of money on is Gen AI, okay? The metaverse, may perhaps something will happen. We don't know. I guess, you know, Facebook renamed themselves to Meta. They're probably sorry they did not rename themselves to Facebook.ai. But, you know, we tried that because we thought that the metaverse was going to have a big impact in the travel and tourism industry. It is not happening.
So
okay?
you think AI is that has crossed your
AI
threshold?
is so we are trying to infuse AI, Gen AI specifically in multiple channels. So we are a tech-heavy company with a very large amount of software engineer. Clearly, Gen AI is having a big impact on software engineering. There's a big debate as to whether people are going to be 1% more productive, 5% more productive, 10%. Okay, we don't know that. Okay, but even by the way, if they're just 1% more productive, it does pay off in 1 year your investment in using things like GitHub Copilot or Mistral or whatever. So, you know, definitely worth it. And also to the engineers, because we have some very worried engineers. You know, am I going to be displaced by Gen AI? So what we tell them is, look, we don't think Gen AI is going to displace you, but we know that software engineers that use Gen AI will displace those who don't. So that's the message we get. So we make sure they actually embrace this in their day-to-day work. And then we're also, you know, very busily embracing Gen AI in yield management for airline. Yield management is this thing where airline prices look kind of random. They're not random, okay? So we use this to have much better forecasting model. And it's actually, so far, being very, very successful. So Gen AI is definitely here to stay in a big way.
Right.
Blockchain, in our world, not sure.
Sure. So, Gilles, I'm assuming you guys have already get into AI and Gen AI. Are there any challenges or risks which you are seeing in already, and how are you dealing with that?
First of all, I would like to make one comment on metaverse, because we also use metaverse, but for industrial purposes. It's not something that we can monetize as a product, but basically looking at our manufacturing capabilities, complexity of production, envision the working station improving on a complete virtual environment, how operator can improve the way they do their job, is a huge opportunity to save and reduce cost. On artificial intelligence, we have set strategically for the company 2 elements. The first one is to empower the company using AI in all processes where we can, because basically we can save time, reduce waste, and improve our operation, the quality of our output, which means controlling, purchasing, supply chain management, forecasting. There are plenty of domains after the component shortage where we have now, let's say, weapon to avoid this to happen again, or to detect in the early stage and have better forecasting approach. But we also use AI with what we call generative AI or synthetic data for all of our product to make better product, safer product on the market. Our problem or our challenge or our opportunity, so to say, is to continue making safe product, because we are responsible for the life of people entering into a car, and 4 of 5 cars on the world are using our technologies. And of course, AI is for us an opportunity to make better algorithm, to use machine learning, to enable the autonomous driving to come in real on the street, which is a Supercycle to come for us, and as well to create new experience into the mobility time. How to discuss with people into the car, how to offer content on demand, content on context into the car, then you can solve many problems with generative AI. And for us, it's a game changer. In all steps of our business, we have in the company more than 1,500 people, I would say AI natives, data analytics, data scientists, and they are operating, if you look, in fast all domain of our product life cycle. And I would say we have to stay tuned, because the car, the experience we will bring on the market in the years to come will be a breakthrough, having powered our electronics, our software with AI.
Sure. So, Vijay, obviously, I believe everything starts from leadership. So what kind of leadership strategies have you used to navigate this change? Because change is hard for companies and people. How are you dealing with this change?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. In my mind, I think about it as spanning people, process, and technology, right? So it's not just technology for technology's sake. There's a lot of, there's an important role, certainly from a people standpoint, to bring all stakeholders into the mix, right? Leaders have an important role to play in articulating, the strategy in a way. For example, in the world I come from, in healthcare, a lot of the C-suite is not technically aware and
That's
equipped, right? If you think about the teams that I work with, stakeholders, clinical teams, or financial teams, or others that are not technical, it's important to allay fears, right? I work with some of the largest cloud platforms and AI providers that also have a consumer social media business. There's a lot of anxiety among, for example, healthcare professionals around the impact to privacy and so on. It may not make sense to me as a technologist where I'm talking about utilizing that partner as a cloud platform vendor, very different from their social media presence. But I need to be able to articulate how I'm actually alleviating those concerns around data privacy, security, compliance, and regulatory, right? So it's an important role for a CTO or a technical leader to be able to go in and first articulate how the focus is on business strategy and business outcomes. How does the technology strategy align with it? How does Gen AI come and benefit us? Being able to actually focus on low-hanging fruit and quick wins. 30% of the massive multi-trillion healthcare spend in the US is administrative costs, right? Costs that actually are not very productive or useful in delivering great healthcare. There are more barriers that get in the way. So how can I, for example, use technology to prove that I can shrink the workflows, be able to automate low-hanging fruit, and be able to provide humans in the loop the capability to be more productive. So as an example, for my clinical teams in our care centers, they put a lot of work to actually aggregate data to create a patient profile to be used in order for providers to prepare for what is the visit, right? Who should we be bringing into the clinics? What should we be delivering in terms of care? They do this in the form of like an agile method, right? A stand-up in the morning. It takes 2 hours to prepare for a person's visit, the people that come in next day. I was able to actually use Gen AI as a way to aggregate data across data sources and be able to create a simple stand-up narrative, stand-up tool with a summary for each patient coming in the next day that took the hours of prep down to a few minutes. So they're able to now come in the morning, use the clinic stand-up tool, get a summary of all the 20 people that are going to come in today, virtual or in person, and be ready for it. And in fact, for the provider to have that as they have a conversation, all of a sudden saying, I know what is that gap in care I need to be closing for you, not just providing a service, right? So being able to build proof points to build confidence is important. And ultimately, measuring the impact, right? You've got to be able to measure productivity impact, measure cost that goes into that, and the ROI, and being able to articulate that on a continual basis is important. And the final point I'll make is from a talent perspective, right? You've got to be able to internally develop that curiosity in the teams to be able to learn and experiment on a continual basis, right? And set the bar where they measure those outcomes and be able to test, learn, and productize, and be able to then make that into a continuous loop, right? So investing in talent, skill development, working with partners that can help you for it, and being able to show proof points. But ultimately, nothing beats that championing from the top and the storytelling, but it's got to go together with all of this.
So Madhavi, taking this at a macro level, she needs the mic. Can you talk about, so in the morning, Pari asked the question, which city has the chance of becoming a Silicon Valley besides Silicon Valley? And everybody here said Bangalore, right? Do you think India has the policies and infrastructure and the mindset to be that? And what do you need to do to make that happen?
So yes, I agree that there is a decent talent pool that we have at this point in time. When we talk to hiring agencies to understand, especially the middle strata of technological jobs that we have at this point in time, whether India is sufficiently ready to actually sort of deliver the kind of product delivery that is expected from these kind of jobs. I think what I sense is that almost 50% of the available pool that we have is very quality driven, but there's still a lot of massive skill mismatch that we still see in this particular phase of technological transformation that we have. I think to that extent, there is ample need for state to actually invest in human capital, especially to be able to ensure that we actually enjoy this technological wave that the world is seeing. We have enough capital in terms of human. Whether that is actually sufficient with regard to the quality that we are requiring, there's still a question in that. There is no doubt that the scale is massive. So that's one of the examples why the GCCs are actually, mushrooming in India, right? You have the same cost effectiveness even in LATAM countries or even Philippines, to some extent China as well, but China again is a very, internalized economy. But we enjoy the massive scalability because the amount of engineers that India has is much higher than any of these emerging economies can actually provide to America, which requires almost 70% of the labor from the outside world when it comes to expanding the technological ambitions. So yes, we have the scalability. The quality still needs to work a lot. The entry-level jobs are pretty much sorted, but I think as you get into the middle management, there's still a bit of mismatch in terms of skills. Just by creating or, building engineering colleges does not mean that you're actually creating good quality engineering colleges, right? Just because by naming something an IIT does not make it an IIT as well. So I think there's still a lot of investment that is required from the state or the policy side in terms of ensuring that the quality of education improves at the primary level, secondary and tertiary level, so as to produce the kind of talent that we want. And especially as the world is evolving and we still don't know how AI actually will turn out to be, we will need to really, tighten our belts to that extent, right, to survive this wave. This wave could be transformative, it could be destructive. I do not know whether it will be labor augmenting or labor destructing. It's again a question mark. But sitting today, definitely we need the kind of human labor or the human capital that requires much more intelligence than we have at this point in time. The scale is there, but the quality needs to still scale up with regard to the policy investment into education and, of course, R&D and skill development.
So thank you. So I think we're running out of time, so I'm going to go around the panel here. A key takeaway, take a minute and kind of...
First of all, on the Silicon Valley, I would like to say something because we also have a long and fruitful and positive experience in India, in Bangalore. For Continental, we have more than 5,000, I would say, passionate engineers. And Silicon Valley or not Silicon Valley, I think it's a matter of training, competencies, but it's also a matter of mindset. Mm-hmm. And if I compare our big center in Bangalore with the colleagues we have and other regions where people are more, from the legacy standpoint, try to resist to a trend, here the change is an opportunity. The day after will be better than the day before, and we have a lot of software, IT native engineers which make a big difference with the rest of the world, and everything that comes new is an opportunity. And just that element is giving me a lot of hope and that we can build a lot here further, and we continuously have increased our presence in India, which is a spot that connects with all regions of the world, with Europe, with the different countries, China, Korea, and Japan as well, with the US as well. Therefore, we have a pretty solid position, which grow and mature step by step. And I do believe that we have here the right position, and we are very happy to be in Bangalore with a lot of success, and of course, a lot of success to come. The years to come will be full of speed, complexity, and technology. And for engineers, I think there is no better challenge. The challenge is to make the mobility safer, to make the mobility exciting, and to make the autonomous driving on the road. And that is a challenge we have in our hands. It's all up to us, and I think it's really a passionate time for the change. We have to embrace the change, not to fear about it. But I think with the capability we have in India, we have globally, there is a fair chance to amaze our end customer, to amaze our main customer, and to change the world for a better future.
Denis.
So completely in agreement with Gilles on what he said about Bangalore and our own large engineering presence in Bangalore. Completely in agreement. Just on change, I don't know if there's something like the Zinnov hype cycle. When it comes to new technology, there's a very famous quote from a gentleman called Roy Amara, an American scientist, and he said, you always overestimate the short-term impact of technology, and you always underestimate the long-term impact of technology. And I think when it comes to some of the latest technology things being hyped, like Gen AI, I do believe we are massively overestimating the short-term impact, but completely missing the long-term impact of that.
That's a great point.
I truly believe in that famous quote from Roy Amara.
Vijay.
Yeah, just briefly. First, I still like driving my car, by the way. I'm very, very excited about autonomous driving, but hopefully I can hang on to my car. So quickly, first, it's exciting to be here at a pre-health, in partnership with Zinnov. We established an R&D center in Hyderabad. They're doing fantastic. It's great to see a lot of the technology that I talked about being built right here in India. I think this is a profound time, right? I've seen multiple waves. Maybe I count 3, 4 massive supercycles, as you call it. And I totally agree with the long-term impact being massive, even though short-term, there's a lot we have to learn. I'm looking forward to this vision of, particularly around healthcare, where you, as an individual, can really own your health, right? With the combination of technologies, I call it ambient technologies, be able to fully be aware. Imagine you have a health dashboard that always tells you what to do, what needs to be done, and how to stay on top of your health. Imagine that's very well connected with the healthcare ecosystem. So whether it's your provider or the others, whether it's mental, physical, social, economic, you have the ability for the ecosystem to truly help connect with you and provide that. You go to a doctor, the doctor looks at you all the time and talks to you and really is able to own your health end to end, as opposed to what are you here for and make it transactional. Imagine you're able to do this in an affordable manner, right? That allows everyone to get more healthy from a physical, social, and psychological. So that's really the hope we need, right? And that's really the dream we have to accomplish for people around the world. And to me, I'm super excited about how technology is making a difference.
So big hand for the panel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if I don't stop now, my mics are going to be turned off, so you better stop now. So thank you all.